Hi guys, so this is the video for the for just a bonsai tree. So I've got an example of the bonsai tree, and as I said in class, this can be used for the orb in the part 3 of the assignment where we're doing the underwater plants. This can be used for the vine section of the orb, and it can also be used for the 5th example, which is like a massive coral. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a curve to use as a branch or a trunk or a section of a trunk, and then we're going to use the extrude along curve function to develop that curve. For the bonsai tree, I think it's pretty simple. So I've gone through some examples of bonsai trees, and I've found something that is quite attractive and fairly simple to make. So within this assignment, obviously we just needed to make the bonsai tree, the base, and the actual dish that it sits in as well. So we need to get the entire encompassing group. But the first thing I'm going to make is just a bonsai tree. So if I put my reference off to the side, and inside Maya, I'm just going to make a very quick example of a dish that I might want my thing to sit in. So if I just bring my reference back, so let's just make Maya a little bit smaller now. There we go. So what I'm first going to look for is if I go to the front view, so I'm looking at this from the very front, I'm looking at this main trunk here, which obviously comes up from just off centre, around, there's a little bit of a curve, and then a big curve, and then let's call this branch here our main one. It does come off a couple of times, but that's really easy to make later on. It looks like actually it bends round at the very tip. It looks like it bends round on itself to create this last branch. That's a pretty cool shape, but I'll make that as a secondary shape later on. I'm just worried about this main branch at the minute. So in Maya, I'm going to go in and create a curve, just like when we did when we made like pipes or ropes. I'm going to make a curve, and we've got the choice of using a CV or an EP. I'm probably going to use an EP for this because it's I can get some sharper edges inside my shape. So go and make my EP curve, and I'm going to make from the very bottom. So I'm going to make from the base of my object first. So start clicking off, and we make ourselves and do kind of like an immediate bend round, and then we go up, and then we bend round again, bend over, and then come to a point like that. So that's a very basic shape, roughly tracing this. So looking at this, I can tell that I'm not particularly happy about my shape compared to the reference shape, so I can go in there with my control vertex. We can access them, remember, just by going to where we've normally got in our context menu for polygons. We've got this. For curves, we'll have this group of options. So I'm going to go to control vertex, and then I can actually then start affecting my vertex. Like that. And one thing we kind of need to remember about organic objects, and this, when we're making, especially when we're making stuff which is made up and designed and isn't actually a realistic or a real plant, is the way that plants grow. They tend to bend towards the sunlight, so nothing's going to really have a proper static or very solid or very uniform shape to it. It is going to be very bendy. It is going to be very twisted. So always remember just to kind of get them little bits of shape in there. So okay, so I could probably spend a long time messing with this, try and get the right shape in there, but I'm going to call it like that for now. So we've laid this in the front view, so obviously it's all flat against the x-axis coming across. At this point now we can decide what's the actual 3D bend of this, because obviously this isn't just going to be flat along one edge. It's going to have bent to follow the light. Maybe it's been moved around, so it's going to have to, as it's growing, it's going to have to kind of weave itself around. So I can kind of, looking at this reference, I think the bottom bit is a little bit forward towards the camera, and then it kind of bends away from the camera. And then when we get up to this bend here, this sort of knuckle area, it looks like it bends towards the camera again. So I'll just move that, give it a subtle bend like that, and then bend away. Like that, and then it looks like as well, around where this thinner branch is, it does a major bend away from the camera. A lot of movement. And then bends back towards our camera. And this is what's making me think that this horizontal, or kind of like diagonal sprig here is a part of the same branch. So I can just get a very basic shape in there. Cool. Maybe this is a little bit too extreme. There we go. So I'm going to say that that's my shape for the time being. So I want to start now making my actual trunk, making my actual physical geometry, because obviously this isn't geometry. This is obviously geometry, but this isn't. So I'm going to bring in a very low poly square. Well, I'm just going to bring in a cube. I'm just going to bring in a cube, and I'm going to take off everything but the bottom face. So if I go to face mode, I'll take everything but the bottom off. So I'm just left with this top bit, and obviously reset the transformation, reset the pivot so it's in the center. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap this to my curve, and just like with our snap, we've got V for snap to vertex, X to snap to grid, C for calculator, that's now snap to curve, or C for curve. So I have to be in object mode to do this. It won't happen in face mode, and I'm just going to just hide that because it'll get in the way. So there we go. If it doesn't snap straight away, remember that you need to be in object mode and grab the center, and then just so I'm keeping hold of C, but I'm keeping releasing the mouse button and just clicking around the curve until it does snap. So that snaps the curve there. So I'm going to first make my, bring that back, I'm going to first make my cube about the actual width, diameter of the trunk that I want it to be. So about like that, about that, yeah. And then I can select that by face. So I'm selecting my polygon first by face, then selecting my curve, and then go and hit an extrude. That's what we get. So obviously there's one division in between this, so it's not actually bending. It's just going to the very end of our curve. And remember, we have to extrude from the first click we did. So if we clicked up here in space, then we'd have to extrude up here. So if I go into my extrude options box that's popped up, I can then go to division, start adding them divisions, go down like that. So it might look a bit janky at first. We're going to do a couple of things then to fix it later on. So that's looking okay. Maybe just make that an even number because I like even numbers. Now obviously if we look at our reference, you can see that it does get thinner as it goes away, as it goes down the line. Now we can actually simulate that inside here very easily. So it's actually, the option is already there for me to do this. But if you just have thickness, local offset, local translate, offset divisions, and keep faces on, if you go up to inside our little extrude box, if you go up to the little grey square with 3 grey lines in there, you're given a whole load of new options to do. And it's worthwhile just going inside here and just trying seeing what each one of these little menus do, because you might find something that you really like. Now what I'm going to turn on is twist and taper. So taper's already turned on, but if I also click twist, you can see that it's been added at the bottom of the menu. So what taper does is taper actually takes the very end of our extrusion, and depending on what I set it as, I can either go really big or I can go really small. So I'm not going to go all the way thin like that. I'm going to give it a little bit of thickness at the end. There we go. And then I can also twist. and twist does it twists the end of the extrusion here by this number, and this number is degrees. So at the minute I've rotated it minus 159.22 something or other, 28 something or other degrees. So, and this will rotate 180 degrees, and that's a really good function just to give your tree a little bit of more life, because obviously trees aren't straight, they're very bendy as they've been bent round, so you can get a really nice twist in there. Now what you might have is places like this where it's kind of struggling to bend past that point. Now there's a couple of things we can do for this. One, we can leave it for the time being because we'll do something later on that will get rid of it. Or what you might have as well as this is points where you've got a load of edges clustered around each other, and then points where it's just a very long distance between two edges, and we can fix that. So I'm going to just click back to normal mode. Now if I look inside, our curve is still there because we've extruded along it. We've not got rid of it, we've just used it as a guideline. With this I can still actually affect my model, so I can actually then go in there and start, you know, repositioning stuff. We were thinking, oh, the geometry's okay, but it could use a bit of shaping. We can still go in there and shape it a little bit more, like that. Or we can actually go and completely rebuild the curve all over again. And rebuilding the curve means that all these points of vertex that I put down, I'll actually dictate how many I want to be going down the entire length, like 12, 20, whatever, and it'll create an even distribution going down. So you might lose a little bit of shape, but your dispersion will be a lot more equal. So I'll just select that, and the way I'm selecting this now is I'm selecting both the curves and the geometry, and then I'm shift clicking the geometry to deselect it, and then I've got the curve selected. So go up to curve at our top menu, down to rebuild at the bottom to the option box, and then we get this menu, and you can ignore the top bit. We're just worried about this number of spans, and we want maybe say 20 points going down this curve. 20, is that too much? Oh, okay, let's do 20. So inside this number of spans I will input 20, hit enter, and then rebuild. And if you keep an eye on this geometry when I click rebuild, you'll see it change. There you go. So it didn't change a whole lot, but it did even out, or it did kind of fix to what this new dispersion of edges was. Okay. And if I go back in there and I reselect my curve, you'll see that I have 20 very evenly distributed curve points going around, and then I can affect those. Okay. So now I'm done. I've gone through and I'm perfectly happy with that curve. If I want to get rid of that now, if I just want to get rid of that curve and I go select the curve, delete it, we get rid of our geometry at the same time. Obviously we don't want that. What we need to do is we need to separate the curve from the geometry, and we don't use our separate tool for this. We have to actually delete the history applied to this geometry to separate from the curve. So with that geometry selected, go up to edit, delete by type history, delete all the history, and then we've also deleted the connection between the geometry and the curve. Cool. So if I just display the render on that, display the next subdivision level on that, you can see this is basically what our curve is going to look like. Obviously we can go in there and affect, you know, say if we want to thin it out in some places and thicken out in some places, we can do that manually later on. At this point I can just get rid of some of these points that are offending me. Like there's this point here that I might just want to grab that vertex itself and move it out. There we go. There we go. Maybe one there. I can just shape it out a little bit. But we're done. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to create this secondary curve at the very end of our sprig by doing the exact same thing, just from the other side. Let's go to the left side, in fact. There we go. So it looks like it just bends around and then just comes to a point. So I'm just going to go through and do the exact same thing, just creating a curve and then shaping it. So, oh, I've got the wrong curve there. I want an EP curve. I've clicked a Bezier curve by accident. So you can use a Bezier curve if you want. So I'm very comfortable with EP curves and CV curves. Okay. So what I'm having now is the curve come out, or the branch come out, curve around, and then just point towards the camera at the minute. That's what I'm going to do anyway. But obviously if I go to side view, the normal view, you can see it's all flat. So I can just move it into place. Now this first group of 3 control points, I want them following this line as the branch comes this way. I want them to be following this line so my extrusion doesn't collapse too much. So something like that. And then I can start to bend round this way. Like that. And then point these out towards the camera. Like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing with my last little bit of geometry. In fact, I'll just raise these up a little bit. There we go. Again, kind of giving a bit of a janky angle to some points. So to actually extrude along this, I do the exact same thing as I did down there. I can just bring it directly off this face here. So I've selected that end face. I will select that curve and I will extrude. Boom. And then I can add my divisions. See what fits. So maybe 10. Yeah. And I can tape a little bit and twist that a little bit. Yeah. And then if I want to, I can then go in and just adjust that curve. So I'm actually going to turn that to 8 because it's quite a short curve and apply that. You see there that the geometry just moved a little bit. There we go. And then I can just separate that history. Delete that history so I can actually get rid of that curve. There we go. And then I can go in and I can fix a couple of things I've noticed, like that little angle there can be fixed. Yeah. So when I go and look at my object now, you can see that it's very bendy. It's not perfectly to reference, but obviously I'm just using this as reference to build off and create my own. So what I'm going to do is actually going to take away that bottom face at the beginning of our geometry. So let's try to just hide this. That face, because obviously that's going to be in the dirt. I don't need that, and it's going to be affecting our geometry a little bit when we do the subdivision, when we do the smoothing later on. So now I'm looking at the reference. I can see there's a couple of big trunks coming off kind of part way through the body, and that's going to make now, and I'm going to make that exactly the same way I've made everything else so far. So okay, so now I want to extrude from this face up this way, but maybe extruding that gives me too much of a thick line. Even when I taper it, it's just too thick coming straight out of there. You know, maybe a little bit, maybe I'm not a big fan of that. So what I can do is, before I actually extrude up the branch, I can extrude just this face on its own and just bring it in. I'll use the offset on this. I'll just bring that in a little bit, and maybe bring it out a little bit. Straighten it up a little bit. So there's a few little jiggery pokery things we have to do, but so that's my face, and then I can do the extrude along that curve when that curve wants to be selected. Apparently it's, there we go. So now it might look a little bit odd at the minute, but when we do our subdivision, to smooth it out. It'll correct itself, it'll smooth out, and we'll get a nice little branch coming off. So I can look at my reference and see that I've got another one just kind of like at this top branch section here to do the exact same thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bring it off the top, I'm actually going to bring it off the side and give a really nice interesting curve to this. So maybe I'm looking at my reference, I'm trying to find a face which kind of sits in the same area, so I'm thinking this face here. Accidentally added one there. So bend it around, then bending it up. So really quite a small one, quite a short one. So inside our viewport now, I can start moving these into place, getting that a really nice angle working. At this point it would start to bend all the way over. So I can extrude across that. Add my divisions, just my taper. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm not going to use just the face on its own to extrude, I'm actually going to bring it in a little bit first, like that. So then my initial face isn't going to be as thick. There we go. So when I do my taper, I can actually it'll be easier for me to adjust it later on. So sometimes grabbing the curve in the middle can be a bit annoying. So there we go. Move that up and move you up. There we go. So you can see these curves are really adjustable. They're really quite useful for what we're doing. Bring that last curve down. There we go. So really adjustable, really useful. And then I could go down and do, you know, more and more as I desire. Going down the actual tree itself. You can see it kind of does come off and drop these little leaves. I won't be doing that inside this because it's just a quick video to remind people how to do this. So keep doing that again and again and again and again. And then let's talk about these actual leaves at the minute. So in this reference, all the leaves seem to be bending up like on a very thick bush. And so what I might do for that is, if I want to get a generalized shape, let's think. In fact, I'll do this in a second video, so I can just upload this. I'll upload a video for this, and then we'll go on to making the leaves on the second video and unwrapping the tree, well, smoothing then unwrapping the tree in the third video, and those should be really short videos. Okay.